Rev up your engines!
Beltran says, Scotty, what's the best full synthetic oil? I've always used Mobil 1. Some claim Castro. Well, those are both excellent oils. Most synthetic oils are perfectly fine to use. What you want to base your decision on. In the United States, they all got a seal. It says API. It's a round seal. It stands for the American Petroleum Institute. They actually test all the oils, and there are various ratings. And like SN+, which is a high rating. What you want to do is compare the ratings on the various oils. And the one that has the highest API rating, that is technically the best oil. It's been tested by those guys. I like Castro. I've been using it for years, you know. I'm an old fogey. Hey, if something isn't broke, I'm not going to change it, so I put it in all my cars. I never have any problems. But I'm sure any other good oil, if I was to do it, would do the same thing. But you can actually read those ratings, API, do a little research. You'll understand what all the numbers mean, and you can pick the highest one, and that would be the best. Alexis Gonzalez says, I got an '07 Nissan Xterra, 187,000 miles. I cleaned the throttle body. Now I have a higher idle and check engine light that says P0507 idle control system, RPM higher than expected. Nissans are kind of particular about stuff. What you first want to do is drive it for 2 or 3 or 4 days. A lot of times, the computer will just acclimate it itself, and it'll go back, and it'll run totally normal. Now, if it doesn't, it's a Nissan. It got kind of funky software. Sometimes with those, you're going to have to take it to a guy like me, a professional mechanic, who has a big fancy scan tool. And there is an idle relearn process on there. I just go and scroll through the systems, and it says you want to do idle relearn, yes, yes, and then it does the system and it idles normal. You might have to do that, but give it 3 or 4 days driving. A lot of times they will go back by themselves. Slick says, hey, Scotty, I got a 2004 Jeep Cherokee Laredo. Want to get a 2014 Toyota Camry SC. Do you think it's a good idea? I think it's a fantastic idea. Hey, Jeep, it's a 2004. It's going to fall apart if you haven't already put a bunch of money in. You soon will. And the Camry doesn't have those kind of problems. So I would certainly do that. That'd be a very smart move. Going from a Jeep to a Toyota Camry, going from one of the most unreliable vehicles to one of the most reliable vehicles. It would make total sense. I personally can't understand how they can even sell these Jeeps with the lack of quality that they have, but you know, people go by names and buy them, but that'd be a smart move. Do it as soon as you possibly can. Especially, hey, now it's still wintertime. Wintertime, used car prices are down. Spring, they start to go back up, so now'd be a good time to do it. Jack MCD 786 says, Scotty, if I use AT205 reseal in my engine oil to stop a slow leak, do I need to put another bottle in every time I change the oil, or is it a one-time fix? No, you'd need to put it in every time you change the oil, but I always explain to people, they work great on rubber oil seals. They rejuvenate them. Say your rear main seal, your engine's gone. You got to pull the transmission off. Just to change that, you're going to spend close to $1,000 or more on most cars doing that. If you buy a bottle for $12.95 and it stops it, every time you change your oil, just spend another $12.95 and put it in. It is amazing stuff, and it doesn't harm anything. It's just a polymer. It's not like some of these leak seals that have fibers and stuff that can clog everything up. This stuff is just a polymer. It doesn't clog anything up. And if it does work, now, if it doesn't work, realize that it only works on oil seals, not gaskets. Gaskets, if they're leaking, they have to be replaced. It's just the gasket. When it's broken, it's broken. But the seal, it's got a round lip with a spring inside that holds it on, and when it rejuvenates the rubber, the spring holds it tighter, and then it doesn't leak anymore. So it can work on that. But you would have to have it in there all the time. Change the oil, you'd have to add it in. Just one AGN says, I'm looking to buy an automatic 87 Buick Grand National with 59,000 miles from a private seller. He mentioned it sticks in second gear unless you mash it. That's all I know. Could it just be a valve body sticking or something? Okay, it could be, but you have to realize what you're getting into. An 87 Buick Grand National today is somewhat of a collector's car. Are you buying it as a collector's car? It's going to go for high dollar. You really want it. If you do, then you don't care because it's a collector's car. You're going to get that thing fixed. You're going to pay money to fix it, or you're going to fix it yourself, and you're going to keep it as a collector's car in a garage somewhere and bring it out on Sundays when the sun's shining, right? On the other hand, if you're thinking about buying that car for an everyday driver, forget it. It's too freaking old. If it's just a regular beater one that isn't become a collector's one, unless you're going to try to turn it in and do it all over, do not buy that car as an everyday driver. It's just not worth getting a car that old for an everyday driver. Things will break. Woodweller says, I'm looking to buy a Ford Excursion. I have a line on a V10 with 200,000 miles or 7.3 diesel with 300,000 miles. Which would be a better way to go? I have family all over the country. I think you should put your thinking cap on now. You're looking at two vehicles. One has 200,000 miles. One has 300,000 miles. And you're talking about driving cross country in these old vehicles? Personally, I would not buy the ones that you're picking, the Excursions. They're fine vehicles when they're brand new. But when they age and get a lot of mileage on it, they become endless money pits for repair-wise. You're looking at two high mileage. I would not buy any of those with that kind of mileage on them. I had a customer that did buy an Excursion that had 80,000 miles. Now he's got 200,000 miles. If you can find something like that, hey, and you like the Excursion, go right ahead as long as the mechanic checks it out and says that it's good when it has 80,000 miles. But don't buy when it's got 200,000 or 300,000 miles and think you're going to be driving all over the country now with no problems. That's a mistake. Tool Mandig says, Scotty got a 2017 CRV Touring, had to fix the oil dilution. 1 year later, the engine failed. They had to do a fix where they replaced the camshafts and all kinds of stuff. But I'm leery about the engine now. I agree with you. I'd be leery too. They should just replace the whole engine with a new engine. Yeah, they replaced some of the parts, but hey, the block is still there, the head is still there. There's all kinds of wear that occurs in an engine when oil has too much gasoline diluted and scours stuff. I think that's just a cheap fix. They should have put new ones in instead of just saying, oh, well, we'll fix your old one. I'll give you a perfect example. I had customers that had those Honda Odysseys where the automatic transmissions were crap. Well, you know what happened with them? They went to Honda and they had this extended warranty and they got new transmissions. They didn't say, oh, well, you know, we're going to fix a couple parts on it. They got whole new transmissions. Now, they're not going to because it's bulletin fix, so it's a bureaucracy thing amongst Honda, but they made a mistake. They should have just replaced the entire engines. Because, I mean, if I were like you, I wouldn't trust it. They've done their fix. They're not going to fix that engine again for free, and if it goes out, the next time, it's your dime that's paying for it. So I think they kind of pulled a fast one there, not replacing the whole engine and just putting a few parts on. It's one thing if the engine is known for having weak piston rings. Okay, you can put new pistons and piston rings and fix it, right? But oil dilution isn't just piston rings. It affects the whole engine. I think that's a bad deal that Honda did there. Bob the Head King says, why do steel wheels have to be so ugly? Why can't they make them look like alloy wheels? Because they're steel and they're strong and they're thin. Steel wheels are stamped out. They're just stamped out. It's a very cheap manufacturing process, which is why they made steel wheels. They cost very little to manufacture and they're very strong. Now, alloy wheels, completely different ballgame. Most of the alloy wheels, they're cast and they cost a lot more money to make. They're thicker because, of course, the aluminum isn't as strong as the steel, so it's got to be made thicker. They look better because they got more 3D effect to them. You can't really do that with steel wheels. If you made them that thick with that design, they'd weigh way too much, and you don't need all that strength anyway. The point is to make something that is the perfect strength for what you're driving, and the steel always was. But the alloy wheels, you got to make them thicker. If you ever took a tire off of an alloy wheel and saw how thick everything was when you'd measure it and measure it against the steel wheel, you see the steel wheel is much thinner, but the aluminum weighs less. And that's one of the reasons I went to it. No Man says, Scotty, do you think it's worth it to get an electric car? Well, as things presently stand, no. Because you can see, one, it's newer technology. And what is new technology? Expensive. I remember when a CD player cost $800. Now you can get them for $29.95 if you want to go old tech and not, everything's wireless now, so nobody hardly uses that stuff. But electric cars are new tech. They're way too expensive. They're overpriced. As they mass produce them more, the price will come down. And of course, as competition comes, and there isn't just a few people making them, when there's lots of people making them, there'll be sales competitions, all kinds of stuff. Number two, the infrastructure is not there for electric car. There are not zillions of electric charging stations. And it takes a long time to recharge the battery. This isn't a 2-second fix. Even a great battery charger like a Tesla supercharger, you run out of power, it can take 45, 55 minutes to do it. If you plug an electric car into the 110 volt of your house, it could take 5.5 days to charge it fully. So the technology really isn't at a level that most people are going to be using. They're working on it like everything else. I'm assuming at some point in time they'll perfect them. Who knows? They might come up with better batteries, or they might give up with batteries entirely and go to hydrogen fuel cell cars. If somebody figures out how to make hydrogen cheap enough, the ocean's full of H2O, so if they can figure a cheap way of breaking it and then using the hydrogen, that would bypass electric cars with batteries, and it would be fuel cell cars, which are also electric cars, but they generate their own power. So they don't need a big giant battery, and they don't have all that weight, and ultimately, they'll be a lot cheaper to make because you don't have to buy these super giant expensive batteries that destroy the planet, because you read about getting lithium. Lithium's a filthy process. They create pollution all over the place making this stuff, so I hold off on that myself. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.